When the fruit hangs low, don't you overthink it, bro. If it's what they want to watch and it's what you want to show, just because it's kind of easy doesn't make it sort of sleazy. When the fruit hangs low. So James Somerton just uploaded a new video. And it's called A Measured Response. The title, A Measured Response, is a reference to H. Bomber Guys. For a lot of his videos, he titles it like Climate Change Denial, A Measured Response, or, you know, stuff like that. I guess it's a joke that James is making here. I don't know. And as I alluded to in my little musical number there, I'm not making apologies for it. We're going to go through it because it deserves a response. Okay? We're kind of mid-blizzard right now, so I don't know. If you hear any ambiance, that's just the snow glowing white on the mountain tonight. And I would like to order 5 more blizzards, if that's possible. Thank you. I'm so spoiled after last year. So let's go. It's a long ass video. No, I'm just gonna have to make a ton of cuts for you.
Just a disclosure, this video is monetized, but revenue from it will be sent along to H. Bomber Guy's team to be dispersed to the people whose work I plagiarized.
Well, I mean, at least he said the word, you know, and that's the only reason it's monetized, right? Right.
If his team won't accept it, I'll be making monthly donations to Wikipedia and Trans Lifeline going forward.
Okay. I love it. I love you gotta love a monetized apology video. That's what I'm assuming this is.
You may have also noticed that a few of my past videos have gone up on the channel again, and revenue from those as well will also be sent along with the revenue from this video.
I'm speechless. I'm speechless. After such a unanimous no, don't do that, that's insane, he does it. He can't stop himself, I guess. I don't know.
Over the last couple of months, I've been getting in touch with the people who I plagiarized to apologize.
I mean, I guess it's a step forward that he's at least saying the word plagiarized. So good on you for that. But this is still insane.
One instead of a mass apology. It's a bit difficult because many of them don't have public email addresses. So I'm still working on it, but it is a top priority of mine.
Okay, it's not that difficult in most cases. I mean, sure, if it's something that was published in print a long time ago, I could see that being difficult. But if it was something that was published online, it shouldn't be that difficult, buddy boy. Okay, it's not that hard in 2024.
Heard back from a few of them, and they were actually incredibly nice, accepting my apology and just imploring me to do better in the future.
Yeah, baby girl. The ones that respond to you are probably going to be like that because it's not a good look for them, you know, to be acting like hostile to you. And plus, like, what else are they going to do? Okay. The people who didn't respond to you, those are the people who just don't want anything to do with you. Okay. Just, good Lord. And anyway, I mean, I guess we have to take your word for it, because what else are you going to do? Are you going to be like, oh, well, they were really crappy and snotty to me just because I plagiarized them? No. So I'm just trying to think about what the optics are here.
So I want to thank them publicly for that. There's plenty that I haven't heard back from, and I completely understand that in many cases.
You understand it in many cases. Are there cases where you don't understand it?
I wouldn't want to talk to me either.
And yet you're forcing them to. If you wouldn't want to talk to you either, why are you contacting them?
I also want to apologize to my audience, though. You trusted me to be a good representative of the queer community, and I was not that.
Yeah, understatement of the year. Nothing new here.
I tried to be. I tried to be a voice.
How did you try to be? How? I guess you just suck at it then, because, like, I don't know. It didn't seem like you tried very hard.
For every member of the queer community, but that was a failed endeavor.
Okay, you lost me. You lost me. So you tried to be a voice by taking other people's voices and talking louder than them with their words, basically. I'm speechless.
Before it even started. I'm a cis white gay man.
Yeah, me too.
No matter how much I try to be a good spokesperson.
Most people's definition of trying to be a good spokesperson doesn't mean taking all the oxygen in the room, using other people's words, passing them off as your own. Like that's not, generally that doesn't fall under the purview of a good spokesperson. So I guess if you were trying, I hope you weren't trying very hard, because if you were, that's concerning.
I can never really truly understand the life experiences of other far more put upon members of the queer community.
That's not really the point.
This is one of the reasons that I would use their own words, but I should have made it very clear that that's what I was doing.
You should have got permission and also made it very clear, but you should have got permission first.
I never, ever thought that I was the only voice out there, as some have said, but...
I mean, you weren't, but like, that's neither here nor there.
Being a cis white man, I thought I might be able to win over some people who wouldn't otherwise listen.
Okay. Regardless, you should have got permission from those people and included them in the discussion of the inclusion of their material in your, little just crusade of just being a white savior. They need you. I mean, and it's true. It is true that, sometimes people will only listen to people who are like them. However, that doesn't mean that you just rip off the work of other people, especially those in marginalized communities, just so that you can do this incredible, awesome, super good deed that you want to do, because they're people. So regardless of whether your intent is to help them or not, you should be including them in that process and asking them what they think that should look like, and if they want to participate in this, and if they want their words to be used in this, because maybe they don't. And if they don't, then you can't use them. I mean, you can, but you're a piece of shit for doing it, and it's plagiarism. It's that simple. It's that simple. And furthermore, this doesn't really describe the way in which you plagiarized, because a lot of the people you plagiarized from were also cis white gay men. So I'm not sure that this even covers the totality of your wrongdoing.
Unless it was someone who looks and sounds just like them.
Yeah.
And so I tried speaking for everyone.
No, you didn't. You just, I mean, maybe that's what, I don't see how that's what you thought you were doing. Because if you're going to speak for, like, if you're going to speak for someone, they should be aware that you're doing this. You shouldn't speak for someone unless they're aware you're speaking for them and that they have acquiesced to your good deed.
And this was a horrible mistake.
It was a lot of horrible mistakes.
What I thought was being inclusive ended up leading to a lot of people feeling left out and even offended. This fell upon Nick as well, as a non-binary person on the ace spectrum. They wanted to include asexuality and non-binary representation in our videos, but because Nick's experience...
You can do that without taking the words of those people, And again, you could have included them. You could have asked if they wanted to collaborate with you. That would have done a fuck of a lot more than just taking their words and repeating them as if they were your own. Okay, you are misrepresenting what your transgressions were.
Experience is not universal. There is no universal experience.
Yeah, we know.
People felt that we were delegitimizing their own experiences because we focused on Nick's, and I apologize for that. And I'm sure that Nick does as well.
Okay, this should be organized better if it's a measured response.
I'd also like to extend a personal apology to Jessie Earl, better known as Jessie Gender. Out of everyone that I spoke to who was also a YouTuber, Jessie was by far the kindest person. I think Jessie might be one of the kindest people I've ever met or ever encountered. We never actually met in person. Because of my hot-headedness, I drew her into just this anger spiral of mine that was unwarranted and absolutely ruined a possible friendship. Jessie was actually doing her best to kind of mitigate my frustration and everything and at that moment, and I just wasn't allowing her to do that. And I really, truly, honestly want to apologize to her for that. Again, if you ever get the chance to speak with Jessie one-on-one, or if you have gotten the chance, you'll know just how nice she is and how kind. And I was a real asshole.
Yeah, you were. And you're still kind of being vague about what you did. Okay, I know you said it was like an anger spiral or whatever, but here's the thing is when you're going to make a video like this, it's important that you state what you're apologizing for and that you come out and you say what it was specifically, because otherwise it allows you to minimize the things that you are apologizing for, because this sounds like it could have just been like, a few harsh words or whatever versus brigading your entire audience against a person. Okay. And those are two very different things. But this sort of gives the impression that it could, be something very minor, right? But it's not minor. So, and people have asked, like, are there examples of good apology videos? Yeah, I would say Jenna Marbles was a good one. iDubbbz was a good one. And I think that it's important to specifically say what you're apologizing about when it's the context of a YouTube or other online apology, because that's, one of the sort of defining features of internet stuff is that there's so much context that is required to really understand a situation. And so there could be people in your audience who are not really aware of everything that you did, who are going to be coming on this apology video. And it is a little bit of lying by omission to not specifically give all the context for why this video is being made. So I just wanted to specify that I'm still not satisfied with the descriptions that you are providing of the things you are apologizing for, because that's a key component of an internet apology, because internet things are so context dependent, and there usually is such a large volume of context that you cannot guarantee every viewer is going to be aware of. So
for dragging her into my reactionary, unwarranted frustration, we haven't spoke since all of that happened.
See what I mean? It kind of sounds like he's admitting to everything that he did, but he's really not. That doesn't really tell us what transpired there. It kind of leaves it up to the audience. And if the audience is willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, if they're already like a fan of yours, or if they're someone who's kind of on the fence because they don't know about everything, or they don't remember, because other things happen in people's lives other than the stuff they watch on YouTube, and it might not all be fresh. That's important, because otherwise it allows you to sort of get away with those things in the minds of those people who aren't aware of what the actions that you are apologizing for actually were, because they were pretty bad. And that allows some wiggle room there. And I don't like that. But
Jessie, if you are watching this video, I do want you to know that I am honestly sorry for that. I hope, truly, honestly, I hope everything goes as well as possible for you, because you deserve all of it. There was a misunderstanding between Jesse and I after that happened that I do want to clear up, where someone who at least claimed to be a fan of Jesse's, did an internet and threatened to kill me, which is, being a person on the internet, death threats are unfortunately not uncommon. At the time, though, I was in a very panicked state. And
okay, the death threat thing. I'm not saying it's okay for it. It's not. It's never okay for someone to receive death threats. That's of course very scary. However, this is such a common thing that people will sort of fall on in order to either draw sympathy or to win people over or to excuse a certain pattern of behavior, that when you're just saying like death threat, in my opinion, that's a very nebulous way of putting it, because we don't know what the person actually said. And so again, here's another place where I would like to see more specificity. If you're going to bring up the death threat, I want to see, what did they actually say that constituted the death threat? I want to know what that is, and I don't want to have to look for it. It should be in this video, because people have a very loose label a very loose idea of what they will label as a death threat. You know what I mean? It could be any realm of things, ranging from clearly not a serious death threat up to, a terrifying, very real, very credible threat. And so, given how common it is for people to assert that something is a death threat in order to garner sympathy or to win over audience members or to excuse a pattern of behavior, I think that if you're going to bring it up in the video, then the exact specific content should be included. That's just me, though.
So I did report it to the police. I did not report Jesse to the police, which is the misunderstanding that people came away with. I did not report Jesse.
Was that name involved in the police report? Because if it was, then that is reporting her to the police. Because if their name was included in the police report, I would say that it is not inaccurate to say that you reported her to the police. To the police. I would have no reason to do that. And it did end up that this person had a prior record with the police of violent acts, and they actually lived quite near me. So the police took it very seriously. They took it so seriously that they implored me not to speak to Jesse, which I took their advice on. How did the police know that Jesse was involved? Well, I mean, she wasn't, but how did the police end up telling you not to talk to her if you didn't report her to the police? Because I'm sorry, but if you linked that person to Jesse in your police report, if you were like, oh, it's one of this person's fans, which I highly suspect that you did, let's go back to the cis white male thing again. I would consider that to be reporting her to the police. So I would say that it is not inaccurate for people to say that you reported her to the police, because the police clearly replied to you about her. So kind of sounds like you involved her in that police report. So I don't know what you're getting at here. The effect is the same. Which I shouldn't have, honestly. I should have at least clarified to Jesse what was going on and not just left her hanging. And everything that he said here, though, is so vague. They lived quite near him. What does near mean? Same city, same province, same continent. You know what I mean? What does that mean? What does a history of violent acts mean? I mean, you're not giving us a lot to work with, James. So I want to, again, apologize to Jesse for that. But in that state, I listened to the police, which is goes running to the police. Okay. I mean, what did you think the police were going to do?
Maybe not the best decision all the time, because
rarely a good decision. Very rarely is that a good decision.
The cops don't usually have the best interests of people at heart. So,
oh, well, sometimes they do when you're cis white.
Jesse, I want to apologize for that and everything else that happened. Completely understand why you would not want to speak to me ever again.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. If you got me involved in that shit, But
I just want you to know that I am sorry. But now back on the original topic, the work Nick and I were doing on the channel, we wanted
what you were doing?
Wanted it to be, for everyone. We wanted it to be a channel.
It wanted it to be for everyone.
Where every queer person could feel welcomed, and we failed at that.
Yeah, welcomed, but like, don't you cross him or he'll call the fucking police on you. Yeah.
That is something that in hindsight, I think is impossible to create. And that's why it's important.
His channel failed because it was impossible to create a place that was welcome. if you got to take your channel down because you plagiarized everything and got exposed, well, it's probably because it was impossible to create a space that's welcoming to everyone.
Important for there to be many different queer voices in spaces like YouTube, and there are. What's more important is that those voices are discoverable, which is something that I should have been helping with. I often shared other queer creators on Twitter, but this was when I only had, 800, 1,000 Twitter followers, and these creators usually had a whole lot more than that. It was
well, and those are probably creators you would have cited in your video too, because you cited the ones that were really well known, because you knew that that's how you would get caught. This angle is bananas. BANANAS.
Weird thing, because usually they would have infinitely more Twitter followers, but a whole lot less YouTube subscribers. I'm not sure what created that dichotomy, but something was definitely off with the algorithm there.
What does this have to do with anything? Some people are more popular on certain platforms. Some people have their, primary platform that they work on, okay? And why are you on Twitter? Who still uses Twitter? I'm on Threads at mackkozelka. No, all one word. I'm also on Instagram at that username. You should follow me. I post lots of pictures of me and outdoors and skiing and hiking, and that's what I post.
There is a part of my brain that says YouTube kind of went, oh, white male queer, let's push him.
That really says that you don't understand systemic bias, and you also fail to understand the way that algorithms work and the ways that algorithms can be biased, because people are biased. So people generally, especially a white audience, is more likely to click on creators who are white out of implicit bias, which is not like it's not necessarily, a judgment upon them necessarily. It can be, but when a community or a society or a user base is biased or racist or what have you, is biased in any type of way, the algorithms that user base feeds data into will be biased without anyone at YouTube having any input into it. It's the simple fact that when biased data goes into an algorithm, the algorithm will put out biased results. And this is a very important thing to keep in mind as we are, seeing machine learning tools being used for all kinds of pretty important decisions, because if the data set being fed into it comes from a biased system, then that model is going to put out biased results because it's going to try to replicate what the data coming into it were. So it's not that someone is at YouTube specifically going in and making sure that, that white cis creators are being amplified. It's the fact that people are biased, the users are biased, and unless there are specific steps taken to try to counteract that bias, the algorithm will be biased unless you specifically are making an effort sort of undo that effect of the data set coming in. And it's just really important to understand that algorithms will be biased purely from getting biased input data from biased people in the user base. That's all that happened here. And unless you're very aware that an algorithm absolutely can be racist without it being actually coded intentionally to be racist, it will absolutely be racist. The overall slant of the data coming into it was racist, which it will be. So and you have to be aware of that, or else you will have racist algorithms making all kinds of decisions and perpetuating all kinds of fucked up shit without anyone like specifically going in and trying to make it like that. It'll just be that way because there was racist data going into it because people are racist.
And, ignore everyone else in the community, whereas people were able to actually discover other queer creators on Twitter and then make their way to YouTube. But the YouTube algorithm that's the most negative interpretation.
Is it though? Because I would say the most negative interpretation was that, like, since part of having a channel is having great content, and since you are just getting the best of everybody else's work and passing it off as your own, well, you sort of unfairly have an advantage there because everybody else has been making their content on their own. Everybody else has been writing their own content, and sometimes their stuff's good and, sometimes their stuff is not so good and they can only write so much of it so quickly. Whereas you just pluck from everybody else. Well, yeah, of course your channel is gonna do well because you're taking the best of everybody's content and you're not writing any of it yourself. So you have quality and volume. I don't understand how this is hard for you to understand. This is the problem with plagiarism.
I have of it, which unfortunately may be true. In any case,
yeah, it's not my plagiarism, you guys. It's obviously that Twitter is less racist than YouTube. Something that sounds absolutely true.
I should have done more to share the voices of other queer people. Certainly.
Yeah, maybe start with asking them. That should be your step one. If you want to share someone else's voice for them, start by asking if they would be interested in you sharing their voice for them. Ask them and include them, okay? It's that simple. It's that simple, but you didn't do that. Instead, you took their words and passed them off as yours.
People whose works I used, both credited and plagiarized in my video.
Frankly, the credited things I don't accept that as an excuse, because just because you credit someone doesn't mean that you can use their work verbatim. That is not an excuse. That is not a mitigating factor. I mean, I guess. And the other thing is that it's not like you introduced each segment that was copied as with each person. You just provided like a list in the opening credits, but it wasn't really clear that even those credits were not really credits because it didn't make it clear which portions of the video and like in what way was it based on it. It was not clear that it was the literal word for word text of the entire video. So I have a serious problem with acting like those were materially different from the ones where you didn't credit anybody, quote unquote credit, because that's not a real credit. And you can't just take people's work just because you credit them. That's still not acceptable. It's still copyright infringement.
But also just other creators on YouTube. It's important for us as a community, as vaguely defined as we are, to support each other.
That support is conditional.
And I didn't do that nearly enough. From day one.
You didn't do that at all.
I was very taken in by the idea of being a YouTuber. As soon as my videos started to get recommended by the algorithm after not releasing a new video for like 2 years, I felt like I had a short period of time to get the next videos out as soon as possible, which is why so little work was put into the writing of them. And so much was taken from other places, plagiarized. Early on, I thought crediting authors in the opening credits alone was enough, especially since the videos weren't monetized early on. But I understand now, especially after speaking with some of the people who I did plagiarize, that was just, I was wrong. That was not the way to go about it. They should have been cited properly within the text.
No, that's garbage. If you're gonna take multiple paragraphs of someone else's work, even citing it is not enough. You have to get permission from them. You need their permission. Otherwise, even if you cite it, that is copyright infringement. Okay? It is copyright infringement when you take significant portions of someone else's work without their permission, even if you cite it. Okay? You can't just have it be half your video being someone else's work and then cite it and act like that's okay. That's not okay. That is copyright infringement.
Text of the video, they should have been called out in the video at least once verbally, as well as, having citations on screen. If there were a whole lot of them, like with, one of the examples that H Bomber Guy used in his video was the Deep Cuts video. There were a whole lot of people who I, credited in the opening credits, but really it's plagiarism. They should have been cited on screen with actual citations of, links where you can find this stuff. Maybe there should have even been a bibliography that you could.
Citing something like that is appropriate for a few situations. Number one, it could be that you're just quoting like a couple of lines, maybe a paragraph, and it's just like that one quote, and then you say where you got that from and who said it and where you can find it. However, it could also be like if you're including a bigger portion of something, but the thing you're including is sort of a factual thing, or like a statement of facts or some type of technical document or something, would be appropriate to include a significant portion of or all of and just cite, because what you're doing there is you're including factual information there, and the writing is not really intended to be good writing. It's intended to be like precise technical writing or something like that, where the work that is being done with that writing is not literary, is not, the way of expressing or anything. It's just a statement of facts, like, I don't know, a scientific paper or something. You could quote a lot more of that, and I wouldn't see a problem with that as long as it was cited. However, when it's something like an article or like an essay or a dissertation or a book, where the product, where the sort of value of that work is in the actual writing and the synthesis of the ideas themselves and the way that they're stated and presented, I would say that no, that's not appropriate to just include significant portions of and just cite, because you're still sort of stealing the value of it without their permission. It's copyright infringement.
On a Google Drive or something like that, because although I might have stated that the scripts were based upon the work of these authors, in many cases wasn't just based on their work. It was their work, word for word. In some cases, I did get permission, like with the Evil
Okay, well, it should have been in every case.
Queen's Disney video. I'll put the email up on the screen that I got from Sean Griffin.
This writer sounds like a pushover.
Where he did give me permission to publish the video. I sent the finished video to him, and he watched it and he gave me permission. But
I guess my question then becomes, if you had permission to do this one all along, why is that not one of the videos that you put back up on your channel? You know, it's not really a great look that when people say that you didn't ask for permission, you're like, oh, yeah, I did once.
Sean Griffin, where he did give me permission to publish the video. I sent the finished video to him, and he watched it and he gave me permission. But in most cases, I didn't get permission and thought that just putting the author's name in the opening credits was enough. I was much more interested in the production of the videos than the writing of them at this point. So after 3 or 4 videos, I brought Nick on as a main writer for the channel. The idea is that they would write the vast majority of the scripts. I would film, voice, and edit the videos, and we'd split the money that came in. We were roommates at the time, and Nick didn't have a job, so I figured it would help both of us. This is actually when we had some of our biggest videos, like the ones talking about Wiccan and Hulkling, where we lucked out because it came out right in time for WandaVision to hit. And then the Killing Stalking video, which became our biggest video by far. The Sadism of Class was another one. These videos weren't plagiarized, and we loved making them. It didn't take long for the channel income to start growing. Lucky timing, really, because this was around the same time that I was laid off, since the company that I was working for downsized once COVID hit its second year. Nick and I had both grown up poor, so we started doing what we could to try and stabilize our income as much as possible. This meant putting out more videos, which meant I had to take over more of the writing duties. But since filming, editing, usually doing multiple edits because of YouTube copyright issues, as well as managing the channel and dealing with my mom's recent cancer diagnosis, all of that was already taking up so much of my time and attention. This led to a lot of copy and pasting blocks of text into scripts. My intention at the time was to use these as a jumping off point once Nick and I sat down to edit the script, because that's what we would do. I would sort of put in my parts, Nick would put in his parts, and then we would sit down at a table, read through the whole script, and kind of try and make it seem cohesive. But, and here's something I'm sure a lot of people will call a bullshit excuse, I have memory issues because of a head injury from when I was a child. They're actually getting worse. I've talked about it on streams and in videos, so yes, it is real, but some people will call it a bullshit excuse anyway. The head injury is actually what led to me having epilepsy, which is why I can't work in any job that involves physical labor. Employers can't get insurance for me to like lift things or operate vehicles and stuff like that. I actually did marketing for a restaurant group for a little while, but got let go when they found out that I was epileptic because, at least according to them, I couldn't be insured to be in the kitchens where I needed to be to film videos and take photos and stuff like that. But anyway, when it came to editing the scripts, I couldn't remember what I'd written and what had been copy-pasted. We should have just chucked out everything that I had put into the script and filled them in with wholly original thoughts. Or I should have been taking notes on where things came from so that we could at least cite them in the videos, if nothing else. But I never did that. According to my therapist, my not thinking to do that probably stems from my recently diagnosed ADHD, but I don't know if I'm willing to say that, really. Maybe it was, or maybe it was just plain laziness. Maybe I thought.
Do I need to respond to each of those excuses? Okay. I gotta say, I mean, I'm autistic. I've been diagnosed with ADHD also, but I gotta say, I've never plagiarized a video script as a result of either of those things. And I would just like to say right here, right now, if by some, I don't know, if I just turn evil or whatever and start plagiarizing videos, starting now or something, that won't be as a result of ADHD. That'll just be because some moral fabric has broken. Okay. This memory thing, I don't know. Like I can't comment as to whether that's the actual reason there was so much plagiarized text. But here's the thing. You have to be responsible for what your conditions cause you to do to others that harms them. Okay? You have to do what you need to do to ensure that you are not directly harming others, which is what you're doing when you plagiarize. So the first time that you heard about plagiarism, if this is true, if we're accepting this story, which I kind of don't believe, as true, so if we're accepting this story as true, the first time you heard about an act of plagiarism, you, instead of sending your subscribers to go harass the person accusing you, you should have taken that video down, because regardless of the reason that there was plagiarism in it, the video needed to come down because it's wrong regardless of the reason that it happened. And that right there, you should have taken steps to ensure that your conditions, medical conditions of any kind, psychological conditions of any kind, psychiatric conditions of any kind, economic conditions of any kind, would not lead to you plagiarizing ever again. Okay? So even if that were true, that would be totally irrelevant. Honestly, it's kind of a non sequitur. Okay, there are plenty of creators on YouTube who have epilepsy, who grew up poor, who perhaps have some type of brain injury, who are ADHD. God knows there are a lot of people who create videos on YouTube with ADHD. Okay. And guess what? They don't plagiarize. So you'll have to pardon the fact that I don't see how this is an excuse, because you know the conditions that you have and you know the steps that you need to take to ensure that you are not causing harm to others, and there are accommodations that can be met. There are accommodations that can be made, and there are things that other people can help you with. And there are things that perhaps that you cannot be expected to do as a result of those conditions. However, that doesn't mean that you are given a pass to harm people. That's not how this works. You have to take the steps that need to be taken to ensure that your actions don't cause harm to others. And that's if I accept any of this as being like the way that he's stating as being a legitimate like story here. I don't know, man. Guess what? Every creator who is a small channel also has to edit and do all these things and has issues with issues with uploads or whatever. And guess what? They don't plagiarize, and they have all range of things that impede or make it harder for them to make videos. And guess what? They don't have these problems. And it's strange to me that this is when this is coming up, that it's coming up now after you've had time to let it marinate. And also, I'm sorry, but I find it weird that you're giving us so many excuses right now, that they're so numerous. I don't know, man. All I know is this is not, it doesn't add up to me. And even if it did, this does not in any way excuse how this happened more than once. This would be understandable if it only happened once, and if you didn't deny it constantly, or perhaps if you had brought any of these things up the first time you apologized. But where was this the first time? You didn't bring it up at all. So I don't know. Something's off here about the way that you're presenting this. And even if it weren't it would not be an excuse other than for the first occurrence of plagiarism, because you were told that you had plagiarized many times before the H-bomber guy thing, okay? And that should have been your warning sign if this is the true story. If this is the true story, your warning sign should have been the first couple times that you got told that you had plagiarized something. And you were told, and that's not how you reacted. You didn't react by taking any sort of measures to prevent yourself from doing it again. You know, if you can't create videos without plagiarizing, then don't create them. You don't have any right to create them then. It doesn't mean that you just plagiarize and we're supposed to just go, oh, that's fine. That's not how it works. It's not how things are done. All of these things that you are describing are true of other YouTubers. And they don't do the same things that you did, and they don't react the same way that you did, and they don't lie the same way that you did. You know, if you can't do something right, if you can't do it in a way that is ethical, that is moral, that does not cause harm to others, that does not steal the works of others, then don't do it. Simple as. Maybe you grew up poor. That doesn't mean that you then are approved to steal other people's work. Because guess what? A lot of writers are poor too. And they're poor because of what you did. It's that simple.
That this was somewhere that I could cut a corner because I was torn in so many other directions. Honestly, I can't remember. Like I said, memory issues. But yes, we should have just thrown out my contributions to the scripts and filled them in with original writing. Mm-hmm. But we felt like we had...
Yep, absolutely. But you felt like you could get away with it, and you just wanted to put the video out there to get the economic benefit of it.
Had too much of a time crunch. We felt
a self-imposed time crunch.
Like we had to get videos out more often to feed the algorithm. And then my mom died, and I became completely useless. I couldn't think straight at all. So Nick had to completely take over writing duties while I dealt with things you deal with after a person dies. My dad.
Okay, this might sound like autistically callous or something, but like, please understand, I'm not trying to like dismiss the significance of that. What I'm saying is YouTubers have parents die all the time and they don't plagiarize. That, you know, it's a part of life that people will die, that people who are close to you will die. That's part of being a living human. Okay. So you're not the only YouTuber who has had a parent die. You know, everybody has hard things happen in their life, but they don't plagiarize because of it. This is such a non sequitur.
Dad, you see, he can't read or write. He was very poor when he was a kid, so he had to leave school really young to work in order to feed his many brothers and sisters. So I had to deal with all the legal stuff after my mom died, as well as making sure that all my dad's bills were paid and whatnot, especially after his income was basically cut in half. There was supposed to be a buffer here, money-wise, as my mom had a life insurance policy that was going to be split between my dad and myself. But the insurance company, RBC Insurance, so if you have insurance with them, maybe rethink that, refused to pay out the policy because my mother never mentioned that she had family with diabetes. She didn't have diabetes, but because she didn't think to mention that she had family with diabetes, it apparently voided the policy. All they did was refund a year's worth of premiums that she'd paid, even though she'd been paying them for about 15 years. One of the things, the main thing, really, that I was supposed to do with my portion of the insurance money was I was supposed to make a movie. These were direct instructions from my mom herself. She'd been very much behind me when I decided, when I was about 10, that I wanted to be a filmmaker. And she wanted me to finally have the opportunity to do that, even if she never got to see it. So when the life insurance went bust, I decided to try and crowdfund it, at least enough to make a short film or two. This is what Telos grew out of. So what happened with Telos? Let me break down the timeline. When we launched the campaign,
again, I'm not dismissing how hard that sounds and what a difficult part of life that is. However, this feels very emotionally manipulative because, I doubt that. I mean, is this really how you wanted to accomplish that goal? Besides, you didn't make a movie. It is very convenient in terms of this video that every time you have done something wrong, there's a very emotional event or whatever, or a hardship. It's never just that you did something bad. There's always some subs, but what you don't realize is that, or at least it seems like you don't realize that your story is not unique. Like, there are people who have very difficult things happen to them and they don't do what you did. They find another way.
In February of 2022, we hoped to raise $3,000 to produce a short film that we hoped that
How are you going to produce a short film with $3,000?
We would then use as a sort of proof of concept to attract.
What the hell are you going to produce with $3,000? That's nothing. That's literally nothing. You can't even pay, like, what were you going to do with $3,000? You can't pay anyone with that. Like, I don't know what you expected to do with that. That's like if you paid $20 an hour to the people working on the movie, that's 150 hours of work. Well, I hope not very many people were going to be working on it. That's nothing. That's just paying people, not even things that you'll need. I don't understand. This is one of those things where, it's one of the reasons that it's a red flag when a Kickstarter project has a flexible funding goal, because there's an amount of money that you need to have in order for your goal to even be doable. And if you don't get enough for the goal to be doable, then there's no point in collecting it, because you can't, because it's just a non-starter. And if you don't know that $3,000 is not enough to make a movie, even a short film, I mean, that suggests a lack of knowledge.
Investors, either private, public, or through Canada's telefilm program, to produce a feature. Some people online have stated that $3,000 never would have covered the cost of a short film, but these were not going to be unionized movies, and we were very clear about that up front. We wanted to be able to pay actors as best that we could, but we never expected to be able to reach typical union wages. The crew was going to be made up of people that I had gone to film school with. Everyone, including Nick and myself, we were roommates.
You went to film school and you thought that $3,000 was enough to make a short film?
At the time, living on the East Coast, were more than happy to work behind the scenes for free. We planned on writing a movie with a small cast and only 1 or 2 locations, ideally ones that we could get access to for free. Again, we assumed all of the money would go to the actors.
How many actors? I mean, if you have like 5 people in your cast, that's what? That's $600 before taxes? I don't understand.
We kind of looked at this as a sort of community theater troupe, but for filmmaking.
Yeah, well, I mean, theater and filmmaking are different.
After the campaign launched, it did infinitely better than we could have expected, and our ambitions grew. We started planning to make a feature instead of a short film, and the plan was to take this around to film festivals. The feature we settled on, entitled Final Girl, was about the lone survivor of a slasher movie type massacre 10 years after the fact, as she was publishing a book about her ordeal, drawing attention from people online convinced that she had actually been the killer all along. In the end, we would find out that the killer was the boyfriend of the girl who the main character had secretly been dating at the time of the killings. And most of the people he killed were, in his eyes, collateral damage as he made his way to our main character, because he was not happy that his girlfriend was cheating on him with a girl. And to those who say that I plagiarized the plot from the novel Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix, read the book. It's nothing like the plot of the movie. And the final girl is a trope. in horror movies.
Oh, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say that you plagiarized it from Final Girls, which is a 2017 novel by Todd Ritter. I'll read you the synopsis from Wikipedia of this book, and we'll see any similarities. 10 years ago, Quincy Carpenter joined her friends in a vacation at Pinewood Cottage. The trip ended with a massacre of which Quincy was the sole survivor. She was saved by Coop, the police officer who responded to the scene. Joe Hannon, an escaped mental patient who arrived at their camp, is blamed for the murders. The press dubs Quincy a final girl, comparing her to two other final girls. There are characters that are sort of combined here, but the plot is very similar in that it's not actually Joe who is the killer. It's actually Coop, the cop, who is the killer, supposedly. But it's not quite clear. And there's a lot of cheating and a lot of rage within the plot here. So I would say that sounds closer to the plot than the other book from 2021. I don't know. Even the 10 years.
So if using the final girl trope is plagiarism, then basically everyone who's made a slasher movie since Texas Chainsaw Massacre owes the Tobe Hooper estate some money. But anyway, Nick and I planned out the movie, but I didn't want to start writing it until the campaign ended and the money was actually deposited. After the insurance debacle, I didn't want to count our chickens before they hatched. When the money was officially deposited, I immediately began work on the screenplay. I finished it that summer, soon after Nick had left to spend 2 months at home in Ottawa, Ontario with family. I sent the script to him to read right away because I was very proud of it. But Nick didn't want to share his opinion on it until he got back to the East Coast. So in the meantime, I put out a preliminary casting call on local job boards. When Nick got back, he believed that the script needed a page 1 rework. This is also when he told me that he'd be moving back to Ontario permanently soon, as he wanted to live closer to family and live in a bigger city with more opportunities. This was a punch to the gut for me. We had been living together since 2015 and had become quite dependent on each other. I felt like there was no way that I could make this movie without him. And since I had received not that many replies to the initial casting call, I took this as a sign that Ontario would be a better place to launch Telos, even though all my professional film connections were on the East Coast. That was a mistake. There, I had free access to the campground that would serve as the setting for a good portion of the movie, as well as easy access to any number of houses, apartments, and even offices that friends of friends would let me use to shoot. In Ontario, I had none of that, which immediately put the brakes on Final Girl since there was no conceivable way of filming it, at least not within the budget that we had. After Nick and I moved to the Toronto area, he decided that he actually wanted to move home to Ottawa,
Are there no campgrounds or open spaces like outside of Toronto? Are you telling me there's no like open spaces you could film in Canada? I mean, even in Canada's most populous province, Ontario, how do you have, moving must have been extremely difficult if you are unable to, if you have epilepsy that is so severe that you are unable to do any type of physical job, including like even just being inside of a kitchen. Presumably you can't drive either, right? Like if your epilepsy is that severe, you can't be operating a motor vehicle if you have epilepsy that is so dangerous that you cannot be working inside of a kitchen. Even like if you like not working in a kitchen, but like working in that place, like in the vicinity of a kitchen. So moving must have been really a huge imposition. How did you do that would be my question if he were here. Yeah, I don't see how the location change to Toronto would have materially reduced your available locations to film in. I mean, sure, you're in the city, but I mean, it seems like you have a fair amount of mobility if you're able to move around all the time. And I don't know. This doesn't make any sense to me.
Ottawa area, about 5 hours away. at least for a little while. In the meantime, he would take a train to the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, once a month to work on YouTube videos for a few days and then head back. This went on for a little less than a year. So I began brainstorming new movies that we could film in Ontario. This is where the multiple posters and teaser trailers came from.
I don't understand what made you unable to shoot Final Girl in Ontario. I don't understand how this location prevented you from being able to film this movie. I don't see how it was the location that was preventing you. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's not adding up.
To create something tangible to show that work was still being done with Telos. I wrote multiple treatments for movies over the next few months, and
what do you mean treatments?
Nick and I eventually landed on one called Antisocial, a murder mystery about a former social media clique who had gone their separate ways on very bad terms, and they were coming together for a reunion at a sort of VidCon event. They were all sharing a house, and then some of them were going to start showing up dead. Around this same time, summer of 2023, Nick had moved to the GTA full time. He and I spent weeks working out exactly how the murder mystery would parse out in the movie. We had a bunch of whiteboards up on my wall, and we were just breaking it down piece by piece. I'd put out a new casting.
What? A casting call? You didn't even have a screenplay yet. You don't even have a finished plot. What? Casting? I thought you went to film school.
Call in the GTA and received hundreds of responses. So I was planning on casting as soon as the script was finished.
Right. Usually you have your script done before you do casting.
But after trying to work out the numbers as far as paying actors went, plus locations, food, costumes,
food? I thought it wasn't going to be a union thing. You don't have to provide food for the actors. If it's like a real small production, how many actors are you planning on having? Food? I don't understand.
As well as the equipment that we'd already purchased and the legal costs of setting up Telos as a business.
That does not cost that much.
We realized that we'd gone way too big with this movie.
I'm sorry, but did nothing in your supposed film school experience, or how about the many, many comments that I am sure you received telling you that you did not have enough money to create a movie? Did none of I guess this all just bounced off of you.
The movie had too many characters and too many locations, and it was just way too complex to be able to pull off with the budget. So I started work.
Why didn't you do why aren't you doing Final Girl? Is it because someone told you about Final Girls, the novel? I don't understand why you're not doing your original idea. You already had a screenplay for it. Maybe Nick didn't think it was the best, but you could still use that screenplay and at least make the movie. And it would be a horror movie, so it would be cheaper because you only need I only heard a few roles there. So I don't understand why you didn't make Final Girl. Is it because you couldn't film at that one spot with the campground? There are campgrounds all over Ontario. You might have to go a bit outside of Toronto, but just do it then. It wouldn't cost you that much to put people out there.
Working on a script for a movie called The Listener about a true crime podcaster focused on the mysterious.
This is insane that you're starting over again from scratch. This makes no sense. As soon as you were not making the original concept, you should have returned the money to the backers. And then maybe once you had a screenplay finished and had a screenplay finished, then you could ask for money. You don't need money to write a screenplay. You could have asked for money once you had a project ready to go. But at this point, you're not getting money because you have a project, you have a good idea that you want to make. Now you're fishing around desperately for ideas because you got money, and so you have to make something. That's not what they funded you for. They didn't fund you for this. They funded you for the idea that you pitched to them. And it's dishonest for you to now flail around with your different scripts that you haven't even written yet. This is insane. Do you not hear how crazy this is? You don't even have a screenplay.
Deaths of homeless gay men in his city. I was a fair way into the script when we realized it'd be about a year before we could even film anything, since winter was on its way. And
I'm sorry, did you come up with a new idea for a movie and then you thought you were going to film it in what, like 2 weeks? What film school was this that you went to? This is crazy.
The story relied heavily on a summer setting. So we went back to the drawing board yet again, finally settling on a modern day adaptation of The Vampire based on the book by John.
What is this, script number 4? Starting over from scratch again? The money should have gone back to the backers already. And then if you needed money to produce this movie because you actually wanted to produce it because you thought it was actually a good idea, then you could have pitched this movie to the backers and crowdfunded it from there. There's no reason why the original money is still being used for this, because this is not what you pitched to them. You pitched to them a short film. And you haven't even made that. Just make the fucking short film, dude. What are you doing? Because you say that you expanded the scope because the crowdfunding overperformed. And yet now you're realizing that you don't have enough to make a feature film. So what are you doing? Why aren't you making the short fucking film then? Why are you making something bigger just because your budget was bigger? That doesn't make any sense, because now you're realizing your budget's not big enough to do anything bigger. So go back to the original plan and stop stringing this along. It doesn't make any goddamn sense, dude. What are you doing?
On Polidori. It's one of the original works of published vampire fiction. It's never received a proper film adaptation.
And it looks like it never will.
And was in public domain, so we thought it would be a great choice. And the cast could be kept down to basically 5 characters, with only 2 of them being on screen most of the time. Nick and I both wrote treatments for it, which we planned on melding together into a final treatment that we would write the script based off of. We'd had a meeting about it, and we were talking about how best to move forward, how fast we could get the script written, how long it would take to cast, how soon we could start shooting. We knew that it had been a while since the initial funding of Telos came in.
Yeah, dude. And this wasn't what you pitched them. You were supposed to make a short film.
And we wanted to get something concrete out as soon as possible.
So make the short film or make Final Girl. What are you doing? If you want to get something out as soon as possible, you don't start writing a new screenplay on a new idea. How does this make any fucking sense to you?
After the meeting, we went to dinner. And while at dinner, I started getting messages about the H-Bomber Guy video. We were in over our heads once we left the East Coast, but the intention was never, ever to take the money and run. I was so insanely excited.
That's what whether you intended to do it or not, that's what you were going to do. If you thought that you were going to make a feature film and your process for doing that involved creating 4 different script ideas and not making any of them, you should have made the short film that you pitched to the people who crowdfunded you. That's it.
About getting to make Telos a reality. I was excited about getting to make a short film, let alone a feature. It's always been my dream to make movies. So,
well, maybe make the short film first.
So Telos meant and means the world to me. For Nick, it was a very exciting project, but not his passion. Nick wanted to write novels. He still does. Nick looked at this as a good creative outlet that was way more fulfilling than writing video essays. I should have stayed where I was and not gone to Ontario. The move uprooted everything that was solid about Telos, and it took a whole year to...
Everything that was solid about Telos? You haven't even you couldn't even make a short film. Why didn't you make the short film?
Get it back onto even anything close to stable footing.
What, stable footing? What are you talking about?
But I am working with a producer now. So you can expect an actual product from Telos this year. It will likely be a short film to start off, but there is going...
I'm so fucking brilliant, you guys. I'm so fucking smart. What an idea, making a short film, since you obviously are biting off more than you can chew with a feature.
To be something coming out of Telos this year. I know I've lost your trust, but I will make nothing financially from this project.
I don't know what to say.
The money that is there will go wholly to paying queer artists to work on a queer film. I am not, nor have I ever intended to be, one of the people paid by Telos. Neither was Nick. We made this very clear to everyone who asked. During our work on Telos is also when the YouTube channel started getting sponsors, which, as I said, as someone who grew up poor, I basically accepted all of them.
What was that? What? You do? Okay. No, come here. My guitar wants to say something. It has something it wants to add. Oh, well said. See?
Except for a few that I didn't think lined up with the message of the channel.
I think I made a video on that.
Or had some bad news surrounding them. There were a couple that had some anti-trans stuff going on in the news, and I just didn't want to associate with that.
It's almost like you just shouldn't take them.
But by accepting as many sponsors as we did, which became very important when Nick and I started living apart and suddenly had 2 rents to pay, we ended up needing to produce even more videos.
You didn't need to produce anything. You could have gotten a different job, dude. People get jobs all the time.
Which, along with the work on Telos and making sure everything was okay with my dad while living thousands of kilometers away, meant I had even less time for writing, putting more stress on Nick and leading to even more copy pasting from me.
You had less time. What are you less time for writing? You don't have another job. What are you doing? Are you out of your fucking mind? What do you mean you had less time for writing? You had all the time in the world for writing. You had as much time as anyone could possibly have. Why don't you get another job? You've had years. What the fuck? I don't want to hear this epilepsy excuse.
That's what led to us putting out, I think, 6 videos in 1 month at one point. It might have been.
It doesn't really count if you're plagiarizing most of it. What do you think, you're special? No one was forcing you to do this. You could have sought other employment. You could have asked family for assistance. There are so many things you could have done other than plagiarizing. I don't get this at all. No, this was a self-imposed thing. No one forced you to put 6 videos out, okay? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. You wouldn't have been hurting for cash if you'd only put out 2, with the amount of subscribers that you had and the sponsors that you were taking, if you were accepting all the sponsors, okay?
5. But in any case, it was way too damn many videos to go out.
So what? Savvy puts out like that many videos per month and she writes all of hers.
Out in 1 month. We tried to take the summer off from YouTube in 2023 to work on Telos exclusively, but even that went up in smoke because my housing situation I won't go into it here. I've talked about it ad nauseum on streams and stuff. If you followed me on social media, you know the clusterfuck I ended up in that led to me moving twice in 2 months. In the last...
James, you are not the only person who's ever had a difficult living situation and had to move repeatedly. Again, I know these things are hard. I just want you to know, though, other people have hard things happen in their life. And guess what? They get on with it. They don't complain. They don't use it as an excuse for their bad behavior. They just move on and move forward. Okay. This is so pathetic. You are acting like a man-child. You are, yes, these are legitimate, adult problems that you have as an adult, but they're not special. They're not special problems. Everybody deals with these things. Everybody deals with difficult living situations. Everybody deals with death. Many people have medical conditions they have to work through and have to contend with and make arrangements for, and that present them with extreme challenges every day. You're not special. All of these things are hard, and there are things that maybe you need support for or whatever, but they're not excuses for bad behavior. They're not uniquely bad for you. You just think that they are.
Couple of months. I've received a lot of emails, as you can imagine, many from people who were rightfully let down. Some from people threatening everything from doxing to violence because of the internet. Some with the kindest words of support I've ever heard, and others simply asking why I made it so difficult to contact me and if I was okay. They wanted to know why, as they put it, I nuked my social media presence.
Well, they're your ride or dies, so don't have to worry about any of your behavior with them. Here's the thing. A lot of times people are shocked by how a certain person who is disgraced or goes through a thing will still have like this core group of followers. Yeah. Anyone of a certain size of following is going to have their ride or dies. And it's seriously, it's right. It doesn't matter what the person does. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's baffling from the outside, but every figure of a certain amount of followers is going to have ride or dies.
It's only thanks to some very, very dedicated doctors and nurses and one very good friend that I'm even here able to film this right now. I'm not going to name her because I don't want to expose anyone else to the small but seriously unstable group of people who watched the plagiarism in YouTube video and thought, well, he should be dead. Like I said, it was a very small group, but when they find out your address, and some of them are actually in your city, they can be terrifying. And they did find my address. And at least a couple of them showed up while I was at the hospital. My neighbors did report them to the police, and I won't go into any more details than that. I'm not sure if I legally even can, but...
What do you mean? You're the victim. You can talk about whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. There's no legal restriction on a victim talking. There's no law that says, like, if a victim talks about what happened to them, bad things will happen. So I could see reasons why you wouldn't want to discuss specifics just personally, like because out of safety or something, but there's no legal restriction on a victim talking about something that happened to them. I don't know. I don't find this credible, but I'm not saying it's not true. I don't know, man. If that happened, that's terrible, but I don't know. I guess we just have to take you at your word, and your word is not super trustworthy, man. That's my issue.
There's a reason I left Ontario within a week of getting the okay to do so from the doctors. So what's next then? Like I said, you'll notice that a few of my videos are live again on the channel. These ones don't come from plagiarized content, and for the most part are written entirely by Nick. Nick lost 3 years worth of work when everything on the channel was taken down. And that's simply not fair.
Life's not fair. You know what wasn't fair? All of the work that they stole.
Nick, he worked hard writing those videos and deserves to have something to point to when he's looking for new writing work. I've also done...
Okay, this is me just genuinely asking. I would genuinely appreciate it if someone can tell me which pronouns I guess I can look it up. Nick prefers, because I heard they and now I'm hearing he.
Some heavy editing on other videos that did contain other people's writing, breaking it down to only original content, again, so that Nick has an actual portfolio of work, as mentioned at the beginning of the...
Listen, anytime someone is considering you for work, the first thing they're going to do is type your name into Google, and guess what's going to come up?
The video, revenue from these will be going to the H-Bomber Guy team.
If Nick wanted to use a portfolio of stuff, there's no reason why it needs to be on a monetized YouTube channel. I'm sorry, James, but it doesn't. You can just hand in a sample of your writing if your writing is good, or you could send them the file. You could upload it to a Google Drive. There's no reason why it needs to be on a monetized YouTube channel, James.
To be sent out to the writers I plagiarized from or donated to charity. However,
I guess, some people are just huge philanthropists.
It works out in the end. These edited videos will be going back up on the channel in the next few days, I think, along with 2 completed video essays that we didn't actually get to release before everything happened. There's also some recent videos that didn't have any plagiarism that the sponsor asked to be taken down and their ads removed. So they'll also be going back up without the sponsors, obviously. And soon I will be releasing a video written entirely by me, properly cited, with all sources credited. Maybe no one will watch it, but I hope you do. I want to prove...
Wait, is it going to be entirely written by you or not?
Prove that I have the ability to do this without abusing other people's work.
I don't care.
It's a very different kind of video than I used to make, though. I'd say it's more of a documentary.
You can't even make a short film, but you can make a documentary.
Than a video essay. You won't find my opinions anywhere in there, just cited facts.
All documentaries have opinions. That's part of presenting a narrative. A documentary can be factual, but it's going to have an angle. It's going to have what it chooses to make because there's a narrative that you're going to be telling. You can't just have like facts and that's the whole documentary. Like the documentary is going to have a narrative that it's telling you, and it could be a factual narrative, but there's gonna be like sort of an opinion, because there's always a way that you could make the opposite opinion of it. It might not be truthful, but what I'm saying is like there's always an angle. You can't say that there's no opinion in your piece. There's always like, if there's not an opinion, there's at least like an angle. There's at least a narrative that you're telling, or else no one's gonna watch something that doesn't have like a narrative or like a point that you're getting across, or something that you're explaining. And if you're describing something or explaining it, there's gonna be some sort of thread, some sort of narrative in it.
I'd like to keep making videos like these new ones about people and events in gay history. And
you can make all the videos that you want, buddy. I don't know if anyone's going to want to watch them. You really need to go away and get a different job, dude. Like, get a different job, because guess what? All those pressures that were on you before are going to be on you again. And if you thought that was a valid excuse before, you're going to think it's a valid excuse again.
And definitive gay movies that you maybe never heard of. Stuff like that. It's actually something that I planned on doing this year anyway. There would be 2...
Great. It's like nothing had to change. It's like nothing bad ever happened to you.
2 videos a month. Nick would write a video essay and I would write one of these documentary style videos.
Right.
That would fulfill the 2 videos per month sponsorship deal that we had at the time. I have no sponsors now.
Me neither.
So probably not going to be 2 videos a month. It'll probably just be the one, which will give more time for research and citation.
Cool. I win.
And crediting and making sure.
Sure are going to be spending a lot of time crediting and citing for a video that's going to be completely written by you.
Or that there is no misinformation in the videos.
I would like to stipulate that you should strive to also not use any generative AI in this video that you're going to be coming out with that you've completely written. Okay, that's my other statement that I'm going to make. I do not now, nor have I ever, nor will I ever use generative AI at any point for any portion of my videos. Okay, that's another pledge that I can make that I would love to hear other YouTubers make.
Which I know that misinformation made its way.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is you haven't really addressed any of the stuff that Todd in the Shadows brought up, which was honestly it was equally bad.
Into our past videos. That was not something that we intended.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I can't prove that you intended it or not.
In some cases, it was information that I was told by people that I considered experts.
What was your vetting process for these experts? Because if you didn't vet them and you were just going based on like, well, they seem trustworthy enough, well, then that's on you just as much as not fact checking. especially when it's for stuff that is as batshit crazy as the misinformation that was in your videos. And see, once again, this trivializes what you actually said.
In other cases, it was information that we had researched. In other cases,
you didn't research it very well, did you?
It was things that Nick had learned in university.
And you didn't review the material or anything? I mean, that kind of speaks to a rather gullible learning process then. I mean, did none of your coursework include original sources? Or that's not an excuse, man. I don't care where you heard it. Maybe you misremembered it. People misremember things all the time.
The point being, it was never malicious.
Doesn't matter.
We weren't trying to lie about things.
I guess you're just really good at it then.
Despite what a lot of people think.
It doesn't matter. What your intention was is irrelevant here. Whether you meant it or not, all this misinformation went out and the effect is the same. If you had done it all maliciously or had not done it maliciously, guess what? The outcome is the exact same. Doesn't matter. The effect is the same. And in both cases, it's either you should have had the moral character to not maliciously do it, or you should have been smart enough or diligent enough to not have these inaccuracies pop up in your videos time and time again. So, I mean, I guess you're just really incompetent then. So why should we think that you'll be more factual going forward? What's going to be your process? Because this speaks to a very fundamental deficiency in your research skills. I mean, there were a lot of inaccuracies and very serious ones and ones that you should have known better than to repeat. So, this really suggests that you're going to have to do a very intensive improvement of your research process. And I don't know that it's something that you can correct in a month or two. It speaks to a very serious deficiency in the research skills that you failed to acquire in any sort of post-secondary education, that you were unable to catch so many inaccuracies. So why should anybody have any confidence in your research ability going forward? Like, what's going to change between now and then if it was so unbelievably bad before?
We were not trying to spread misinformation. That was not.
Yeah, well, you did. Guess what? The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Ever our intention. And that's something else that I want to apologize for. As for my Patreon, everyone can stop worrying about me relaunching it right in time for a billing cycle. That will not be happening. I don't want anyone who either doesn't know about the plagiarism or simply forgot to unsubscribe to get billed. So I'm going to start from zero. I have put together a new Patreon account. So if you want to support my documentaries about gay history...
You're an idiot.
Fantastic. Honestly, your faith in me after everything means the...
Is batshit crazy. Speaks to a fundamental deficiency in your ability to judge moral character. You are extremely fucking naive and gullible. I'm sorry. I'm just straight up telling you, if you're ready to join his Patreon, you are gullible. You are naive. You are going to get flim-flammed all the time by people with bad moral character. I'm not saying that that he can't be reformed or whatever. I'm saying that it can't be reformed this quickly, and we're going to need a lot of evidence before you could ever even consider any type of trust of him or any type of support for him.
World to me. If not, I completely understand. Like I said, I've lost...
I'm not sure that you do completely understand, though.
Your trust. I'm going to work my ass off to earn it back, though. And I know for some of you, I'll never be able to do that, but I'm going to try anyway.
Yeah, good fucking luck, dude.
There's a link in the description to the Patreon if you want to join it, where you'll...
Is this real?
...be able to see the two yet to be released videos right now, as well as, take part in other stuff that will be...
Oh, wake up, Mac. Wake up. This has to be a dream.
Be on there, like a book club, podcasts, voting on upcoming videos, all the usual Patreon stuff. But this video is not about promoting myself. This video is about me apologizing.
You might want to review this video's content then, because I don't think it's about what you think it's about then.
And I am incredibly sorry.
No, you're not.
It was never my intention for anyone to feel hurt.
Your intentions are irrelevant right now.
Or left out. Or excluded.
But you did. And so I guess it's not really better if those weren't your intentions, because wow, look what you did accidentally, completely unknowingly. So it would seem that it's going to be very hard for you to not do that going forward, since you didn't know that you were doing it the first time. You did it completely unintentionally. You did all of this shit unintentionally. Wow. It's amazing that you were able to learn how to not do those things so quickly then. That's incredible. That's the fastest learning I've ever seen. Just gonna stand here and watch you learn. It's all right.
It was never my intention to spread misinformation.
Yeah, but you did profusely and prolifically, extremely prolifically. Incredible volumes of misinformation you spread totally unintentionally. So what's to make me think that you won't be doing it unintentionally going forward? I mean, wow. That's amazing that you did it without even trying. That's concerning. How are you going to avoid it going forward? I mean, because you did it for years and years, very prolifically.
And I'm really, really sorry that happened.
That's all well and good. What does that tell us about going forward then?
And as much as I've tried to explain myself in this,
there's no explanation, dude. There's no excuse for this. And if you were unable to fact check your information before, if you were unable to create videos without spouting ridiculous, absolutely batshit crazy lies, why should anyone think you're going to be able to going forward? What have you learned? Have you learned anything?
This video.
How are there still 7 minutes left?
The memory issues, the ADHD.
Everybody's got similar stuff, dude.
The personal things that were going on in my life, with my mom getting sick and then dying, and trying to make sure that my dad was okay following that and everything.
I am sure if you had a way to create a list of YouTubers with ADHD whose moms died in the past couple years and whose fathers required their assistance, you would have a list of thousands of YouTubers. Fucking thousands, man. Thousands. You could have thousands of them who don't plagiarize or do any of this shit or spread misinformation or exclude people or act in an exclusionary way. Okay? I'm just telling you, that's just the way it is. Okay? I can guarantee you, I would stake my life on there being thousands of YouTubers whose mothers died in the past couple of years, who have ADHD and who have, some other type of psychiatric condition, and who have successful channels who don't plagiarize. Thousands. I guarantee it. I guarantee it, James.
Those aren't excuses. There is no excuse.
And yet you keep repeating them like they are. Why did you even bring them up then? Why?
For what I did.
Why did you even bring them up?
There are lots of people who make videos on YouTube. There are lots of people who make podcasts.
Oh my God, he admitted it.
So you are aware of it, and yet you keep bringing it up.
TV shows, movies, documentaries, who have shit going on in their lives.
Sometimes they have even more shit than you have.
That's very stressful.
Yeah.
And they don't plagiarize people's work.
Right.
There is no excuse for what I did.
Right.
For everything that happened, whether it be with my mom or the memory issues, there was something I could have done to mitigate that. There's nothing I could have done about my mom getting cancer. But knowing my patrons as I did, in hindsight, I'm pretty damn sure that if I had said, guys, I need to step away for a couple of months to deal with this, I don't think a whole lot of people would have fled the Patreon. A part of me thought they would at the time because I catastrophize, but I really don't think that
I don't care
would have happened. Even in the very beginning,
even if all of your patrons would have left, that wouldn't make it okay to plagiarize. I don't care. Even if every single one of your patrons would have left your Patreon because your mom died, that would not then say it's carte blanche for you to plagiarize people's work. Okay? So whether none of them left or whether all of them would have left, it doesn't matter. Your mother passing away has nothing to do with plagiarism, fact checking, or acting in an exclusionary way. And it doesn't seem like you get that because you keep bringing it up.
And I was like, oh, I got to get as many videos out as possible. If I had said to those people who subscribed to the channel early on, you know, for the next video, I want to make sure that it's fully...
Okay, I'm confused because I thought that the plagiarism was due to the memory issues and you couldn't tell when you had pasted in blocks of text or not. But now you're telling me that you felt like you had to put videos out as quickly as possible, and so you plagiarized. So were you aware of what you were doing or were you not? Was it the memory issues or was it because you wanted to make more videos? Which is it, dude? Because it's not both.
Correct. And I want to make sure that, you know, it's as high quality as it can possibly be. I don't think anyone would have, you know, unsubscribed or not watched the next.
Whether they would have or not is irrelevant. That is, I don't care if every single one of them would have unsubscribed from you. I don't care. That doesn't give you an excuse to plagiarize. And again, this all makes me wonder, okay, so did you know that you were plagiarizing or did you not? Were you aware of it or not? Was it caused by the memory issues or was it not?
Next video, because it didn't come out a couple of weeks after the algorithm decided that I was important.
I don't care what the algorithm would have done. That's not an excuse. There's not an excuse. You just said it like 5 seconds ago. There's no excuse for what I did. Right. So none of these things are at all relevant. So why are you still talking about them?
And for some reason, I convinced myself of these things, but I don't.
It doesn't matter. I don't care.
I don't think, in hindsight, looking at it, I don't think any of that would have happened. And
if it would have, so are you saying there are excuses now?
So there is no excuse for the missing.
What do you mean? So there is no excuse. Are you saying that if every single one of your patrons would have ended their support, that would have been an excuse? No, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many of them would have left you. There is no excuse, so it doesn't matter.
Information. And there is certainly no excuse for the plagiarism. I fucked up bad. I stole people's words and thoughts and opinions that they worked incredibly hard writing and publishing and finding someone to publish. I want to prove, not just to you, but to myself, that I can do the work. And that's why I've started making these documentaries, working on these. I can't...
Go get a different job. That's it. I can't believe this. This is unbelievable. I am speechless. I'm speechless. Nobody cares, James. None of these... You say there's no excuse, then you give a bunch of excuses. Stop it. You're not unique. You're not special. Okay? Everybody has issues. Everybody has difficult things that happen in their life. And guess what? They don't do what you did. So if you want to do whatever, like, make whatever you want. I would suggest you get a different job though. Okay? Because you don't have it. You don't have it in you to do this. And you still don't get it. You still don't seem to get it. You're just parroting the ways that people have phrased what you did was wrong. You're just parroting it because it suggests to me that you don't actually understand what you did wrong. You're just repeating what other people have told you. Okay? That's ridiculous. I've been Mac. Peace out. Bye!